It'd be cool to like get a hat and stuff. It's funny. There was a TikTok video about I was just like a gangster part 2. Apparently, there was part 1, right?
Wow.
And it showed like a picture of like old gangsters. I guess it wasn't Al Pacino, some other one, probably Al Capone or something. And then he just started, showing pants and shirts and stuff, and then he just dressed up. He looked nice, but it's nice. I like the idea. It's like, hey guys, start putting on some suits, start putting some pants. Don't put some big man clothes. Y'all too busy out here trying to still look like y'all in high school and shit, and then acting like high schoolers, and then bitching while you're getting no bitches. It's like, the bitches grew up,
Yeah.
and they're not, and they're not for a lot of this childish shit. Y'all out here chasing chicks in miniskirts and stuff like that. Like, we like it, it's cute and all. But get yourself a chick that dressed modestly, that has some self-respect, and then when you want her to, and she's willing to do it because you're that kind of guy, then she'll wear the miniskirt when you want it, as opposed to that just being her normal attire. It's just like the idea of, complaining about, like, oh, she's going to the club all the time. It's like, well, you shouldn't be going out with a chick that goes to the club all the time.
Yeah.
Because she's going to keep wanting to do that. It's one thing if she doesn't really go to the club like that, dating, everything's good, and then one day she suddenly wants to start going to the club. Like, whoa, what's going on? Then, obviously, you didn't know that, right? You didn't know she was going to suddenly start wanting to go to the club. But if she already did that, to expect her to quit, it's just like getting with a chick that's a crackhead. It's like, well, it'll be kind of hard to get her off the crack.
Yeah.
So why don't you get a chick that's not a crackhead, right? And hopefully she doesn't start cracking while you're in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And so forth and so forth. It's like, it's like things that you don't approve of, like Instagram and clubs and girls trips, blah, blah, blah. Don't mess with those chicks. Just like y'all be like, don't mess with 304s. Don't mess with the chicks that have these things that you have a problem with.
Yeah. The idea should always be to try to find somebody that matches you. If you're just doing things randomly, if you're just trying to keep throwing things against the wall to see what sticks, it's understandable when you do that when you're younger. But when we're talking about people getting up there in age, when you're middle age, when you're 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, when you're in the years, especially as a man, where you're coming into yourself and you're finding out exactly what you're like, after a while, that excuse goes out the window. After a while, it's like you should have an idea, a general idea of what you want. You should have a general idea of the experiences that you've had, whether you went to college or you went to a trade school, or right after school you went straight to work. If you had one job, if you had two jobs, if you had three jobs, if you worked in the daytime, you worked in the nighttime, you worked overnight. When you have these experiences, you're supposed to take in these experiences, not just with how you encounter people, but how people encounter you, for you to gain that chemistry and to get an idea of what you want. Because unless you've worked with all men all your life, you've worked around women. Unless you've associated with nothing but men, you've associated with women. And if you've built up friendships and you've seen these different dynamics, you understand how that can shape the idea of the type of woman you want. And that may have changed over the years, but you're starting to get a solid idea. You're starting to put the pieces together. You're starting to know what you like and what you don't like, what you need and what you don't need, what holes need to be filled and what doesn't, and where you're strongest at and where you may see I don't want to say necessarily weakness, but you see kind of a need that needs to be fulfilled. And that's why it's important for you to take that idea that you have and start solidifying it in those years. Not saying that you have to settle down and get married. If you choose to, that's fine. If you don't choose to, that's fine. Everyone's different. But the importance is to have that idea, because one of the things that I wrote down here was growing up in this world. And that's how I think we should approach it, because we are, especially as millennials, Gen X, and even some Gen Zs to that point, we're all essentially growing into this world, this modern age. And we can't navigate it like we used to navigate the old years, like our parents did. We can't navigate it how they did. They didn't grow up with all the technology, all the access, and all the media, where everyone is on an algorithm. And I remember we spoke about that before, where it seems that everyone's running off of an algorithm. Everything's being programmed, everything you're seeing. You know, when you get on your phone, the first thing that you do is, oh, let me go check my messages. And then you end up on your wall. On your wall, there's advertisements. There's all these things that's being implanted in you. There's these ideas. Hey, you spoke about getting shoes. Here's some shoes that are on sale. You know, you spoke about Gucci. You spoke about Balenciaga. You spoke about all these things that you had an interest at one point. Now it's being fed to you constantly. So it's being pumped into your frontal lobe. So it gives you that temporary rush, that temporary fix you need. And it gives you that feeling that you have to go out there and go get it at that moment. And that's the world we live in. So we have to understand and we have to learn to navigate that in our friendships, our dynamics, but as well as our relationships. And so by learning to, I think the word I'm looking for is navigate. By learning to navigate, you get yourself a better sense of who you are, but also what you want, what you will not accept. I think that's why having non-negotiables is essential, because you begin to build on that and you understand what you will accept and what you won't accept. But a lot of people want to go back to how it used to be, but not understanding that this is the world that we're growing up in. And there's not really much we can do to try to make it go backwards. What we can do is find where we're comfortable at and bring somebody in that's comfortable with it. Because other than that, you just have to play the game for what it is. And we're in an age that a lot of people don't like taking rejection and failure. Everyone wants to win, no matter the cost, no matter the shortcut. Everyone wants to win. And it's like we're in a winning world when, you know, what's the cost? What are you willing to pay? And it just seems like everyone wants to pay something. They're willing to pay something just to get that short-term victory, that short-term rush, that short-term vilification, the short-term validity. And there's not really much we can do singularly. We have to come together. So, yes, wanting that short-term rush is nice, but what is it building to? You know, because like I said, in the world we are now, it's really about group and teamwork. But this whole singular attitude that we have, it's part of what makes everything going wrong go wrong. You know, there's no group thinking anymore. So another thing I wanted to say was I spoke on the Fox and the Hen House, and that was based on the idea that we have a lot of people around us that generally don't want our best, don't have our best interests. And it's almost scary how you can look around you and begin to see people for who they really are and say, okay, this person is not a person I trust. That person is not a person I trust. But then how can we expect to have this group mentality when you're not trusting anyone? And so, you know, we have this method of let's make this work, let's make this work, let's make this work. But in order for that to happen, we have to come together. But first we have to get the fox out the hen house. First we have to find who's not with it and push them to the side. And unfortunately, it's so inviting and everything's supposed to be accepted. But how do we navigate getting them out of the way while still continuing to further our goals and come to a kind of completion of what we're looking for?
Yeah. One of the funny things we think about is the fact that people need to obviously do better at vetting, choosing, picking. And one thing is, if you have boundaries, what you're looking for is somebody who already has those boundaries built in, as opposed to getting with somebody and then tell them what your boundaries are. You're supposed to, when you're talking to somebody, right? When you start talking and be like, hey, what's your name? What's this, that, and the third? You ask them questions. Like, ask them, are you atheist? Or you believe in God? This, that. Like, whatever you want from your partner is what, like your boundaries. Like, you don't want her to go to the clubs. You ask her, does she go to the clubs? Does she like to go to clubs? And she says no, good, bang. There's one of your boundaries already met. She don't go to the clubs. You ask her if she has an Instagram. She says no, bang. If your boundary is you don't want her to be on social media, bang, there you go, problem's all right. So just that's the thing, that's the beauty of having a list, of like requirements. Females, they got their requirements, right? 6 feet, 6-pack, all that stuff, right? They already have their standard. Guys, you're supposed to have the same thing. Your boundaries are your standards, things that you won't be okay with in a relationship. You put them forward. Because the thing is I always say is that relationships is like a job, right? You're the boss, you're vetting her, right? You're interviewing her for the position of being your girlfriend / wife / mother of your children, which means she has to meet all the requirements. She has to have everything. You can't just take her like, oh, I need somebody with a college degree, but she only has high school diploma, right? You wouldn't hire somebody who only has a high school diploma when you need somebody with a college degree, right? Like a bachelor or something for the position you're hiring for. So you won't hire somebody that doesn't meet your requirements. Like, I need 2 years of work experience, but they only have 2 days of work experience. Then don't hire them, right? It's the same thing when it comes to vetting a woman for a relationship. Is if you don't want her to dress provocative, then stop chasing the chicks that are dressed provocative and try to turn them into a girlfriend. Chase the chicks that don't dress provocative. And then when you're okay with it, you be like, we're going somewhere. Can you put on this nice tight skirt? A tight dress. And then she's okay with it. Then there you go. That works, right? Instead of she always dressed that way, and then you try to tell her, oh, stop wearing that outfit. Get somebody who isn't already wearing that outfit, right? It's only logical. So that's the way I look at it. So it's like, find out what your boundaries are, what you will and will not tolerate, and then find somebody that meets those criteria, that have those built-in boundaries. That if you don't like a female that smokes, don't date a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like a female that's a crackhead, don't date a female who's a crackhead. Like, it's just common sense. Just like don't cheat, date a girl that's a cheater, right? That she has a habit of cheating. So vet. And of course, vetting is not only just directly with the person, like asking questions. That's the first step. But hopefully, they have people around them that you could ask questions like, hey, this person such and such? They might tell you some stuff that she definitely wouldn't tell you. Like the fact that they might have had some physical activities with her. Now because somebody else was honest to tell you that they did. So then if you ask her, hey, have you ever messed with anybody at your job? And she's like, no. It's a lie because somebody already spilled the tea, right? You already know the truth. That's another thing. It's also being good at telling what's true and what's a lie. Also, being able to accept certain things. Mm-hmm. There's certain things you might accept, certain lies that you'll be okay with. Like, if you don't want to know the body count, then you don't want to know the body count, right? And so forth. There's obviously other things. I'm the type of person that definitely likes it when a female, at least one of two things. Either she pretends to like what I like my hobbies and stuff, or she at least doesn't make it a problem, doesn't complain that I have that hobby. Mm-hmm. One of the two. Pretend you like it, or just don't bother me about it. Don't try to ruin the relationship over my hobbies, over how I spend my money, especially when I'm giving you money like here's $10,000, do what you want, and I'm going to go do what I want. Don't complain how I do things, especially if it's my money, right? Mm-hmm. So I should be able to do what I want with it. As long as it's not hurting nobody, right?
Right.
That's the most important part. But, if I have a hobby that I like to play video games, my free time, then that's what I like to do as an example, or anime or whatever I'm interested in, fixing cars, racing cars, whatever, whatever I'm into, then that shouldn't be a problem. And that's the thing, is make sure that it's not a problem. So find a chick that won't make that a problem. And that's the funny thing is like too many people are so focused on trying to sound nice, right? Trying to say some cool shit, trying to impress the chick with saying things like, "Oh, I got a yacht, a Lamborghini, or something like that," right? Trying to impress them and trying to get some details out of them, which usually tends to be of the sexual nature, and that's about it. You don't vet them for anything more important, like if she has mental health issues, things like that. She has asthma, and the list goes on. Like y'all don't seem to vet for shit that could be important. Does she ever get mad and stab one of her exes? You might want to know that, because you might not want to end up being the next ex she stabs. Yeah. Logically, think about it. But that's all I think about. Think, plan. Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing, is plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
Plan for her to cheat on you, but hope she doesn't, right? Plan for her suddenly want to do girls' night or go to the club when she normally didn't when y'all were together. There's a possibility she was doing it before, she met you and then stopped. So then you thought she doesn't go to the club, but she actually did. You just caught her at the time she was like taking a break from the clubs. But she's tends to go to the club, and she might start bringing it up, start doing it again. Either because she's bored or she's looking for options. You know how that is. So you want to definitely keep an eye on that and act accordingly, right? Start seeing the red flags early, start adding them up, right? Start tallying and see how many. If you think about it, let's say you can tolerate 5 different red flags. All right, you can tolerate 5. But once it hits 6, you might want to start reconsider. Definitely start looking for options, right? Start looking for a backup plan. Because again, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, at least you already have somebody else lined up. If it does work out, okay, then it works out and that's it. Just keep on moving. But at least always have that. The thing is, most females already have options. They have friend zones, so they already have like 10 guys lined up ready to take your place. So you should at least have one that could take her place if need be. But ideally, you don't want that. You don't want to fall into plan B, right? And that's another thing. Don't do things that will guarantee you end up falling into plan B, right? Don't try to ruin the relationship just so you can just go to plan B, right? And plan B is if she fucks up, not if you fuck up. Right? So try to fuck up.
That brings me to something I thought about. Like, what are your motives? So when you're going into a relationship, what are your motives? Are they solid? Are they genuine? Because I think a lot of us nowadays just go into relationships just with certain expectations, right? And we expect, okay, these are the things that we want to happen. These are the outcomes that we're trying to look for, whether it's a guy looking to just have a woman that he can have a temporary physical relationship with, whether it's a woman who is trying to find a guy that she can have a temporary bond with, or they're both looking for something long term and don't know how to come to it. That's part of what I was thinking of, is if you understand your own motives and you understand what you're trying to do and you know the goals you're trying to achieve, if they're genuine, if everyone comes like that, then we can get past a lot of these relationship roadblocks that we come to. And I think the issue is that we either don't really know our motives, or the motives that we do have, we tend to veer off from them once we start getting to certain levels. So for example, if your motive is to, okay, I want to try to get to know this person before we get physical, because we don't want any soul ties or emotions unnecessarily getting in the way of trying to do the proper vetting. We do our best vetting with a clear mind, both sexes. So by having that as a motive when you're going in, even if you two do become more physically attracted over time, say you've been seeing each other steady for a few weeks and you just want to go at it, you might say to yourself, the moment we put our feelings into this, the moment we have this moment, and no matter how long it lasts, the moment that happens, everything's going to change, because we've now taken a lot of the motives that we previously had and a lot of the things that we previously told ourselves that we weren't going to do, and we've now crossed a line. So now, after we cross that line, are we going to have the same thoughts? Are we going to have the same feelings? Are we going to have the same motives? Because like I said before, we have to be able to stay on that path. That way we can get the outcome that we're looking for. If we try to diverge from that path, we may not get it. We may still, but 9 times out of 10, we won't. Because when you are with somebody in that way, everything changes. Things change for the woman as she might grow more emotionally closer to you. Things will change for you because as a man, we go through what we call post-nut clarity, and we might start seeing things differently. And so if our motive was to not have that until we were very sure that we were either going to move forward with this or we were going to try to keep it where it is for now until we have more information, we've essentially set ourselves up to destroy our own vetting process. Now, some people might start off with that as their vetting process. They will say, first, I need to post-nut clarity because right now I'm having this physical attraction and it's clouding my better judgment. I need to get this out the way. And that may be understandable, but we also got to respect the fact that once that happens, and even if we don't see things the same way, we still might get the backlash of she has become more emotionally attracted to us because we've not only come correct and showed her our best version or a better version of what she expected, but she's given herself to us physically. So now she has an emotional investment. And for the women, that's a much heavier price to pay than men. When men make an emotional investment, we've usually already on our knee with the ring. That's where our emotional investment comes in, because a lot of men don't see the value in it nowadays because they're not emotionally invested in relationships like they used to be. It's one of the biggest financial and spiritual, emotional, and just all around investments you can make is making a woman your wife, asking her to be your wife, and then investing in a future, making a family with them. So if that's not your motive, you have to be careful when going into these relationships, because you are now having this idea of, okay, I've done the proper vetting process. Now I can be physical. You're physical, and now you're like, wait, maybe those feelings I had, maybe that was just pent up frustration. Maybe that was just a temporary dose of cortisol that was just going in and it was just circling around my brains, and you have all these electrons turning on, and now your body's getting all these tingling senses and everything. But now it's all shut off. You got your nut, boom. Now it's like, well, I don't no longer have that attraction to you. So what do you do with that? So it's important to understand that once you do that, it's like, have my motives changed? And if my motives have changed, how do I adjust? Because now that those motives have changed, if I've expressed those motives to her, now it's going to make it seem like I'm lying. Now it's going to make me look like the bad guy, when it's just a flaw of nature or a habit of nature that happens. So then we got to have a better understanding of it and make better decisions. Because like you said, it's about the people that we pick. We have to make better decisions. That way, if we are clear on our motives and we stick to them, we get the outcomes that we want. And that's, for me, that's what's most important, especially in the climate of today's relationships. I see that a lot of people just don't want to come in with clear and concise and genuine motives. And if we did, and we stuck to them, I believe we'd get better outcomes.
Definitely, that's what you want is, you want the outcome that you want. Right? If you want to be with a traditional woman, then that's the outcome you want. Then you vet for that. You look for what qualities equal a traditional woman, and then look for those qualities. Right. That's why asking questions about her past is important, because we all know that her past will affect her personality, her present, which, if you want to add it to your future, you want to make sure that she fits. So, the more similar beliefs, goals, life experiences she has to you, one, the better she can relate to you, the better she can understand you. So that way there's no misunderstanding. Like, let's say hypothetically, I use this as an example. You're like, okay, no social media, at least turn off your comments and your DMs at least. You can post whatever, you can post whatever you want. But let's try not to show your body to the world type thing. And then she should be able to understand. It shouldn't be a question of you trying to explain to her and make her understand why she should do that. It should just be like, you ask her to do it and she'll do it because she understands. There's a problem if she don't understand. She's immediately resistant to it. Immediately tries to argue and debate on it. And it's like, your man asks you to do something for him. Just like when you ask him for money, you don't want him to ask you 31 questions about why you want it or you need the money. You want him to give it to you, right? Especially if it's something as simple as like, I want some money so I can go buy some new clothes, and it should be that simple. And you should be able to be like, here, sure, no problem, right? Because he understands. Okay, you want to get some new clothes, no problem. I understand that. Same thing as if I ask, hey, turn off your Instagram. Not necessarily delete it, but at least uninstall the damn app on your phone, at least, right? Uninstall it. Whenever you really, really need to do something important, like maybe you got like some nice pictures you want to upload, reinstall it, upload the pictures, and then uninstall the app. The idea is just so that way you're just not addicted to the idea of like opening up your phone and instantly going to Instagram, right? There should be extra steps to kind of slow you down. So out of sight, out of mind, as they say. So, if you don't, if you don't have Instagram on your phone all the time, then the likelihood of you, jumping on Instagram will be slim. And then you won't. And that's another thing. Is the push notifications, stuff like that. Will get your attention. Your phone going ding ding ding, and making noises. Then you know that, hey, somebody liked your post or whatever, or somebody shared your post or whatever. Like, it's constant. Your phone's constantly calling you. So you want to mitigate that. Nothing wrong with having social medias and being able to use it to share the world with your passions, your interests, certain glimpses into your life, but just not too much information, obviously. But it's like, especially if you're so used to having social media, I get the hesitant to want to get rid of it or whatnot. But there are compromises, because I do think it is very extreme to do the whole delete thing. But I don't disagree with deleting the app as opposed to the account. Leave the account up there. Just delete the app and go from there. But teach their own. If you want to make the big, especially if you get married, having kids and stuff like that, you want to do the whole big thing of like, yeah, totally delete the account. That's my past. Leave it there in the past. That was a certain chapter in my life. And so be it. But at least it was your choice, right? But the thing that I'm just saying is just like, compromises, right? There should be more than one compromise. Like, you're like, all right, delete your Instagram, and she's like, no. Okay, uninstall the Instagram. See, have some another option that she might be like, okay, I could do that. I can uninstall it. All right, fair, right? That's a compromise, right? Give and take, right? All relationships aren't exactly 50-50. It shouldn't be 50-50 anyway. Your value to her is that you provide for her, right? Protection, you're a provider and protector. That's more than what she brings to you, right? She brings to you her. You provide her, protection, right? Shelter, food, resources, your network, right? The people you know, and so forth and so forth. So you bring a lot to the table, and she brings some stuff that's valuable. They're more valuable individually. They're less than what you bring, but they're more valuable individually to you. So appearance-wise, the scales are off, right?
Mm-hmm.
She brings three things, sex and science as an example. And you bring money, cars, Lamborghini, your martial arts training, your fitness, and your homies. Just you got your own security team, and the list goes on. All the things you bring to the table, right? Celebrity status, whatever. All these things you bring compared to what she brings. But what she brings is highly valuable to you. You value them very highly, so it doesn't matter that she brings like a small portion, because it's extremely valuable, right? That's the thing. Value is determined by who values it. So if you value her beauty and her kindness, then that would be more valuable than, that'll be equal to her be like, all right, you're tall, you're good looking, you got a lot of money, you're funny, you're this, that, and they're like, she'll name 10 things about you that she likes. And you only name like 2 or 3 things you like about her. The numbers are skewed, but in both your eyes, y'all value it evenly. Like, yeah, you got the 2 things that I care about, and I got the 10 things you care about. Even, right? It's fair. And that's the main thing. It's more about being fair than about being equal. Equal means the same. And it's like, nah, I only like 2 to 3 things from you. I don't need, 10 things from you. 2 to 3 things is enough for me. And you need me to have 10 things for me to be the perfect guy for you. All right, so good. It doesn't have to be equal. It just has to be fair. I give you what you want, you give me what I want, and happy ever after. And that's the way it should be. Especially just like her being extremely attractive, which more likely she's gonna be better looking than you anyway, right? That's what she's bringing, right? That's the more she brings, and you bring more by having more money than her, being taller than her, being stronger than her, smarter than her, and all that stuff. Having more friends to her, more bigger name, like more people know you. The list goes on, right? You having more and more and more than her is why she even looked at you in the first place, because you stood out. Not only did you stood out compared to her, you stood out compared to any other options she has, and she has options.
Mm-hmm.
That's the point. She has other guys that she could just easily have chosen, but you were the best. And that's the whole idea. You should be the best version of yourself, of course.
Yep.
Talk G.
Mm-hmm. I want to speak to something that I thought of before. When it comes to one person being the best version of himself, how you know that you're making that progress and that you're going in that direction is understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, understanding where you are at in the world, understanding where you're being seen at, and furthering yourself towards your goals. I say every day you should have daily goals, long-term, short-term goals that'll stretch for the next 5 to 10 years. But keep daily goals. They may be small and they may seem insignificant, but if you keep achieving them, you'll find that they stack up and you're able to achieve more. That's why I get so disappointed when someone says, oh, that person's not doing anything. You don't know what that person's doing. That person could be achieving a much smaller goal now that they set for themselves that you would have never done. And because they are going and they are achieving these goals, those goals are stacking up and they're starting to get a more positive outlook. I think a lot of people, especially men in today's society, they don't set those small goals because they don't see the significance in it. They want to set longer goals, which is fine, but they are longer goals. So they're not meant to be solved today, tomorrow, in the next 2 weeks, in the next 3 weeks. They're more or less 6 months to 6 month plus goals. But if you set daily goals, you will start to see that they will add up and it will reinforce your positive outlook on life. Because what you're doing is you're strengthening yourself to the point where you're filling in those little gaps that you may consider weaknesses. Okay, if you're not good at writing, You might want to start setting short-term goals by improving your writing. You can't do that if you don't write, unfortunately. And part of doing that is reading more, taking in more information. The more information you take in, the more information you can put out. If you want to become more like an intellect, if you want to be more articulate, if you want to be somewhat of a teacher or mentor, because you want to be seen more studiously, give yourself, transform your identity a little bit, because you might want to be seen a little bit more sharper, that you're a little bit more headstrong. You might want to put off the aura of, you can come to me, I may have the answer. Well, you can't do that unless you start putting in the goals to be better than that. And the only way you're going to do that is by making a starting point, writing down a list of things you need to do, and achieve that list. And if you have a list full of 30 things and you can achieve that in the next month, that means you're achieving one goal per month. At the end of the month, you've checked off your entire list. You've checked off your entire calendar. And if these things were significant, you'll start to notice the difference. Especially, I believe they say, if you do something for 21 days straight, it becomes habit. So, especially if you've done a lot of reading, you've read for 21 days, you may have read a lot of smaller stories, but have taken in a lot of information. You've taken in a lot of new crafts and a lot of new abilities to add to your arsenal. So that way you become better in different areas. But by combining all those skills, you essentially become a lot sharper. So you're now filling in those gaps, those weaknesses, and turning them into strengths. And the more strengths you have, the more good and stronger you are at things. So that's the best way to improve yourself, is to start giving yourself more short-term goals. I think a lot of people have a lot on their plate, and I understand that. A lot of people don't have the free time to just sit there and just write off things. But sometimes you have to sit down for 5 minutes, take a breather, see where you're at, and see what you are achieving. Because sometimes living in the monotony of just letting life pass you by, before you know, you turn around and you say, you know what, I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't done that in a long time. And you start to feel like, I'm not half of what I used to be. And you have to be able to stay sharp, especially as a man, as I said, especially as a man, because those skills are what make you attractive to the opposite sex. The more you can do, the more attractive you are, because those abilities will make you more appealing. The fact that you can do these things and do this and do that, even if it's working with your hands, working with your mind, have a positive attitude. Those will be seen. Those are the things that stick out. Landscapers. Some of the most prominent people that you see that you never really see single is landscapers. These are people that can work with their hands. These are people that can go outside and they can fix roofs, and they can essentially build houses. And so you're looking at construction workers, and you're looking at all these different people, and you're like, how are they making this work? How are they able to do this? And it's because they picked up all these different skills. They took one overarching trade and brought all these different skills in, and now they have a plethora of abilities they can do. That's attractive, but that also is making them better, because when they need to, they have these go-to skills. Sorry about that. That will benefit them. And they filled in where some of us may see our own weaknesses. They filled in that. They said, okay, this is a weakness. I can't build a birdhouse. So what did I do? I went and learned how to build a birdhouse. I bought some materials, and over time, for the next month and a half, all I did was slowly put together a birdhouse. Once it's done, they're like, boom. And then somebody will look at it like, well, you built the birdhouse. But then they look at themselves and say, but I can't build a birdhouse. But you can build a birdhouse. That's a new skill you've picked up. That's interesting. That's interesting to people, because especially when they can't do it. Because you've done 3 essential things. You've learned a new skill where you're working with your hands. you've learned a skill that required you build something. Because building something, we always say build something. You build it and they will come. But most importantly, you completed it. It shows that you didn't give up. It shows that you didn't quit. You completed something that took some time, that took putting together materials, that took glue or sawdust, or however you choose to build it. You took your time on something, but you completed it. It's like I was watching this TV show, and it's about the Lego warehouse. There's a guy that makes all these sculptures and everything out of Legos. I can't do that. I can't do that. So what's made it so interesting to me is, he takes like a person, takes a picture, and he builds Legos out of that picture. And then they literally, that's his job. He gets paid to do that. He gets paid to play with Legos and make model figures and everything. And you had to wonder, like, yeah, it's beautiful. It's a great job. But also what made it so appealing is it's something he did with his hands. He uses his imagination. It's something he did with his creativity. But most of all, it's something you have to complete. That's your job. So you can't just, start halfway and be like, nah, I'm not going to make a TIE fighter. I'm just going to leave it like this. Like, no, you have to finish it. I'm not going to make this epic looking figure of The Rock or Batman, or it's Disney, so it'll probably be something by Marvel. And they're like, nah, I'm not going to finish it. No, that's your job. But by showing that you can come to a completion, it shows your dedication, and that's attractive. But that's also a great trait, because once you start doing that, you'll start to see other things in other areas. It'll start to develop in other areas. I'm starting this project. I know I'm going to see this project through. I might not see it through in the time that's more conducive to you, but I will see it through because I have that mindset. I have that attitude now. I have that in me that I'm going to be a completionist. I'm going to complete things. And so it's very important to build and develop those skills, because that will come in handy later on down the line. And it's very important towards bettering yourself and towards becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah. You are like an avatar. You're a character in a game. You're the main character. You gotta level up. Especially as a guy, you gotta level up. Females level up differently. They're more about character customization. They're more about the aesthetics of what the character looks like. Guys are more about what the character can do. It's not enough to have a cape. It has to give you the ability to fly. It's not enough to have a chest plate. It has to make you, it has to increase your defense and make you tougher, harder to kill. It's not enough to have a cool looking sword. That sword better be able to kill in like 2 swipes or something. That's the thing, functionality. Having muscles and not being able to lift shit up is worthless. So make sure your muscles can lift stuff. Focus more on actually having strength and looking like you're strong, right? Actually be strong as opposed to looking like it. Actually be responsible with money instead of looking like it, or actually have a lot of money instead of looking like you have a lot of money. Like, for example, don't spend too much money making yourself look like you got money, but you end up actually not having money because you're spending it to look like money. Right, that's stupid. It should matter to you more that you actually have money and you have it when you need it than to look like you have money. Right? With improving the appearance of your character. Mm-hmm. Don't look like a bum, because you'll be treated like one. Mm-hmm. But don't look like your personality is money. So then you spend too much money on your outer appearance that is like that's all you got to offer. You got money and you look like you spend a lot of it on looking like you got money, but do you have a personality? Do you have hobbies? Have you achieved anything? If you were to die right now, would there be anything on this planet left over that's of importance, that would be significant, that people can remember you for? Or it's just a whole bunch of expensive shit that you own that don't matter? That's probably going to go to the trash or even be pawned off, sold to other people. Who got how important that is, right? you need to be more than your Bugatti, because when you're gone, somebody else will take it, or it'll get turned into scrap heap and turned into a Tesla or something. You don't know. So that's the thing. Like, your character development is way more important than, well, obviously anything materialistic. But materialistic things are useful, right? Obviously, money is useful. Having a house is useful. Cars, yachts, airplanes. Things of these natures have their uses. Just make sure that that's their purpose. That they're there for a use. That they have, because most people, like most rich people, they have yachts not just because it's a flex. Oh, it's cool to have a yacht. A lot of times it is a business expense. They use it to, to impress people who have money, and hopefully they can convince them to give them money, through business deals and stuff like that. So, hey, come to my yacht, let's have some drinks and talk about business. Much cooler to talk about money when you're on a yacht, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing as like literally having like a house or a part of a house, like a mansion or something, like where it's designed specifically and it's decked out, it's nicely decorated. You have like fancy art and all that good stuff. And that's not for you, that's for your guests. When they come through, they can be all amazed and like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Is that a Picasso? Is that the Mona Lisa? Yeah, that's the original one. Shit like that. That'd be impressive, right? It's more to give them the ability to be like, oh, this is awesome. I'm experiencing something otherwise I wouldn't. That's another thing, is what you do for others. Not everything has to be about you. Like, if you have something cool, because I remember Cat Williams said this as a joke. He's like, in his house, he has things that's not for him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have silk pillows because he likes silk pillows. He has them for females, right? He has them so that way they don't have to worry about their hair getting messed up when they're in bed with him. Mm-hmm. He has certain drinks that he don't drink, but females drink it. So when he has ladies come over, here, want a drink? Here's a drink that you like. That's the thing. He has stuff for the types of women he wants to interact with. So mm-hmm. He has stuff in his house specifically for them. He might have tampons like in his bathroom for them, right? He might. That's the thing. He'll have stuff that, is useful for the ladies to come through. But that's who he expects to come through. So of course he needs to make sure that the house is set for that. I mean, hypothetically, if he's going to be messing with single mothers, and single mothers are just going to bring their kids over, then he might need to childproof the house, right? Yep. It's not for him. He's not charged with going as man, but he might need to have some childproof stuff just in case, because God forbid, while he's flirting with the single mom, the kid falls down the steps because there was no little gate there to prevent the kid from going down the steps or some shit, right? So God forbid, right? So that's the thing. It's like, you want to make sure you have things that ain't for you. It's there so that it benefits other people. Even I think about stuff like that, where it's like, for example, if you want to be with a woman and you want her to be in good shape, get a home gym. Mm-hmm. Make it where she can exercise, but she has no choice mm-hmm. to exercise. If let's say you have a chef or something, make sure the chef cooks healthy stuff. Like, have the chef learn how to make like fat-free cookies and cakes and shit like that. That way, if she's like, oh, I want cake, okay, mm-hmm. I have the chef make us some chocolate cake, and it'll be healthy because the chef knows how to make it healthy, right? Make it fat-free and whatnot, and low calorie and whatnot. So that way, she can have all the cakes you want and not gain weight, right? Logic, right? Solve problems, and money can solve many problems. It's a tool, so use it wisely. There'll be a lot of guys complaining about they want their the female they're messing with to be in shape. It's like, well, buy her a gym membership, or get yourself a gym membership and get it where you can take a person with you for free, mm-hmm. and take her with you. Go with her, make it a thing, make it something y'all do together. Go swimming, right? Go to a pool, go to a beach, and insist on y'all actually swim, because that's exercise, right? Ride bikes together, jog together. Right? Again, eat healthy, exercise, right? If you understand about weight loss, right, about caloric deficits and stuff like that, then you'll make sure that what she's eating is low in calories. Right? If you notice certain things that she likes to eat, and you get her a healthier alternative to it, you know, that will allow her to keep enjoying what she enjoys, but it'll be in a healthier way. Plus, it shows you care. Shows you care about her health.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I get it. You like chocolate. All right, well, here's some fat-free chocolate. Here's some sugarless chocolate. Chocolate that has less sugar. Instead of lots of sugar, it has less sugar. It's still sweet, still delicious. You can enjoy it, eat as much as you want, and it not be a problem, right? Because it's low in sugar. Just logical stuff, right? Getting alcoholic drinks that have less alcohol in it. That way you can, drink alcohol, have some fun, enjoy yourself, but not get tipsy and blackout drunk and white girl wasted type stuff, and have some bad experiences or things go wrong, go south. The thing is that you can improve yourself, but you can also improve others, especially when you got money, especially when you have more self-control. You're able to share that with people. You can give people tips and stuff like that. Sometimes it's hard to tell somebody to do something. Sometimes you gotta show them, right? The actions speak louder than words, so you gotta take that into account.
So we've covered a lot of the major topics: relationships, money, self-improvement, life improvement. Do you think there's anything else? We don't want to put everything in one, but I think that they should get the gist of it. Like, if I could edit everything down into 1 to 3 sentences, I would say become who you want to be, set out with good motives, goals, non-negotiables, know what you want, know who you are. And I'll take from one thing you said, definitely. Don't negotiate your boundaries. I think in all areas of your life, if you have a set of boundaries and you don't let anybody cross or go over or throw those to the side, you will find that your friendships, your relationship dynamics will improve. If you stick to your motives, your goals, your non-negotiables, you will see that your relationships, friendships, and family dynamics will go up through the roof, because you will be able to weed out the people that aren't there. You will be able to find the fox in the hen house, and you will be able to get it out. And that's what you want to do. You want to start taking people out your life that don't mean you better. You want to keep people in your life that want to see you do better, that are willing to support you, even if all they're doing is cheering you on. Because we all need that connection in some form of way. As it pertains to money, always seeking to do better, always seeking to negotiate a better pay, not going beyond your boundaries where you're working all the time so that you have no type of life for yourself. There are points in your life when you're very much younger, yes, that you can keep up with that, but that will catch up to you later on in your years of life, and you don't want to be 50, 60, not able to walk and run and do everything you can. I know we're in a different time period that are our elders, but yeah, those are the 3 things you definitely want to be able to do. You want to be able to just continue to improve yourself, set your boundaries, your goals, your non-negotiables, and stick to it. And don't let anybody compromise it. And I promise you, you will see better results.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's you want to improve yourself first before you improve everyone else. One of the best things you can do for the world, for others, is being able to improve others, being able to help people achieve their goals. But you got to be able to achieve yours. You got to have the skill and capabilities for you to do what you need to do. Just like you mentioned earlier about completing things, right? You start something, make sure you finish it, and then teach others to do the same. You should expect the same from others, right? You expect that if somebody made a promise that they're going to do something, that they do it, right? Be a man of your word, just like you should expect that others to be a man or a woman of the word. If you don't accept less from yourself, don't accept less from others. If you're not a slacker, don't let other people be slackers. If you're not lazy, don't let everybody else be lazy. If you're strong, make sure everybody else is strong. You know, if you're smart, help others be smart. Because sometimes I know that some people have a habit of wanting other people to be wrong or other people to be less smart than them so that they can feel smart for themselves. It's like, it's not about being, smart and everybody else dumb, or you being right and everybody else wrong. It's if you notice somebody's wrong, you correct them. You let them know that they're wrong and show them the facts, right? Show them the proof. Like, here's why you're wrong. Here's the information that says you're wrong. Learn it, memorize it, and now you're right. You're no longer wrong because now you know right from wrong. Before you said 2 plus 2 was 12. I corrected you and told you it was 4. Now you know, now you're not wrong anymore. To me, that's what I tend to try to do. Is when I correct somebody or I tell somebody they're wrong about something, it's because I want them to be right. It's not because I want to be right. It's because I want them to be right. I know they're wrong, and I'm trying to give them the right information so they can be right. I want all of us to be right. I want all of us to know how to make money. I want all of us to know how to, take care of ourselves. To not be sick, like from the basic shit, like common cold or viruses like COVID or something. I want us to be better. So it's not about me being right and somebody wrong. Like, oh yeah, masks do work, la la la. I'm right, you're wrong. No, I want them to know that yes, things work. Certain things work, and they should use it because it works. And I always say, if it works, it works, right? To each results may vary, right? Nothing's going to be equal. You shouldn't want things to be equal. That's another thing I've said many times before. It's like, you don't want things to be equal. You don't want to be equal. I don't want to be equal to nobody. I want to be better. But at the same time, I'm not going to hold people down while I'm getting better. So if I'm improving, I'm going to help other people improve. But me being me, I'm going to keep improving more. I'll still be like 1 or 2 steps ahead of them, but at least I'll let them catch up, right? I'll still let them make sure they're behind me. So when I look 2 steps back, oh, they're still there. They're not like 1,000 miles away or 1,000 steps away from me because I left them behind. So I didn't, at least give them some assistance to at least keep up. You know what I mean? I want to be first place. I'm okay with it. But I also want everybody else to be at least second place. If you ain't first, you're last, right? So, but if somebody can beat me, If somebody ends up being first place, hey, at least I'm second place, right? It's better than being 10th place or 1,000th place. Let's see. And it's like 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Oh man, almost